Hello and welcome to the Rooted Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick, and I have Pastor Stewart with me today.
Hola.
We've got a very broad topic to speak on today that Pastor Stewart brought to us, and this could get deep. But before we get started too far into it, we got a little icebreaker for him. I think he would have a little fun with. All right, if you could bring back any fashion trend, what would it be?
Any fashion trend. Oh, the seashell necklace, by far. Seashell necklace. I was going to go with the bell-bottom jeans, but I was never alive during that time, so I can't say that because people would be like, man, you're a lot older than what you really are. But I'd probably definitely say the seashell necklace. That's the trend my wife always makes fun of me for.
You know, I get it, though, because I'm pretty sure in my senior picture, I've got one on.
Well, when you talk about the seashell necklace, my mind goes back to, so those are my high school days, but back in elementary days, we used to listen to music. If we were good in the lunchroom in quiet, then our principal would play music for us. And if we were bad, then he would not play music for us. Well, a lot of times he played music for us because we were really good. And we always freaked out to Spice Girls. It's kind of weird to say. Like, we were like jamming to Spice Girls. That was at John Sevier Elementary School in Maryville, Tennessee. Shout out to John Sevier. So we used to listen to Spice Girls during lunch, and I think that was my first encounter with tartar sauce. I'm pretty sure that was my first encounter. I think I threw up.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's disgusting, dude. Nasty.
Not a tartar sauce person.
No. Tartar sauce is equivalent to ketchup and eggs. Like, that's disgusting. Like anchovies. Like, I put you in that realm.
So you don't eat Caesar salad then either?
I do eat Caesar salad occasionally, but I'm more of a ranch guy. It cannot be not Kraft. That's macaroni and cheese. Well, no, they make ranch.
They do.
What's the Hidden Valley? Hidden Valley's like out. It's got to be the best ranch here on the mountain. Everyone, I don't want to talk bad about people's ranch dressing because that gets a little sensitive. Jefferson's in Trenton, Georgia has the best ranch dressing of all time.
Theirs is pretty good.
It's so
Making
good.
me hungry right now, ain't it?
Yep, haven't ate dinner if you can't tell.
That's all right. Maybe we'll be able to do something about that later.
Absolutely.
So we've got a little bit of a deep topic, like I said before. What we're going to call this: burdens and boundaries, or boundaries and burdens?
Boundaries and burdens.
So when we're talking about boundaries, at least in the context of what we're going to be talking about today, what's kind of the outline for that? What exactly do you mean by boundaries?
So when you talk about boundaries, this is something that a lot of people struggle with, even in their work life, their home life, their everything that they are. They struggle with boundaries, and people are like, man, I need to set boundaries for my life. Well, when you set boundaries for your life, you have to identify what a boundary is. So when you talk about boundaries and what they actually are, I'm more of a visual kind of guy. I picture a fence line. We've always had a house with a fence line in the backyard. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law just bought a house in Cleveland. They just moved to Tennessee, and we went to go look at it, and it's a beautiful home. They just bought it. Well, whenever we were going to see it, I noticed that every house in that subdivision had a fence except for theirs. Well, theirs is a brand new house. Right. So they'll add it later. And I told her this week when we went to go see her and my brother-in-law that, hey, y'all really need a fence in the backyard because you don't know who can come in or who can come out. So when you think about boundaries is like a fence line of separating what's not yours and what you're not responsible for versus who you are and who you're responsible for. So in a way, a boundary in essence, defines where you end and where other people begin. It's when you set a boundary in your life, you're basically saying, this is what I'm taking ownership of. These are my feelings, what I can control. These are my choices. These are my responsibilities. And a lot of people they get so stressed out, and they're so stressed out and they're burnout because they don't have boundaries. Well, they don't have boundaries. That leads to a stressful life, that leads to burnout, because they're so busy trying to wrangle everybody else's emotions and everybody's responsibilities instead of focusing on theirs. It's never your decision, or it's not your responsibility to uh, be responsible for people, but you are responsible to them. So that's a huge balance that I've really, be honest with you, it's a really hard balance as a pastor, and even life in general. You can't balance everyday life. You have to figure out what you can and what you cannot do. And I'm so OCD to the point, it's like, I've got to finish this. Somebody asked me one time, said, well, if you finished everything on your list, how would it make you feel? I'd be like, it would make me free to do more stuff.
Yep.
Like, and they're like, okay, what kind of stuff? And I would say, more things on my list. And they're like, okay, well, your boundaries, no matter how long your to-do list is, you have to have a stopping point, because if you don't have a stopping point, you're going to work and work and work and work until you burn out.
Yeah. No, and just for like a visual of that, for me, so my new supervisor, what are we going to call him? The guy that's training me, Kenny, he uses a to-do list that is literally made into his Outlook, and he's got it broke down by job and what task he needs to do for that job. And then it's broke down by importance.
Yeah.
And he does not worry himself
Yep.
with anything that is not in the importance category.
Right.
That's for another day.
Right.
And he has taught me in that sense of how to go about work in a way to where I can not stress about the little things. Let's hit the big things that got to be done. And then we'll worry about the little things later.
Right.
When they turn into big things,
right.
then we'll worry about them.
Right.
And I think that needs to be more of an everyday occurrence, not just at work.
Yeah.
That needs to be applicable to our lives.
Right. Well, we have boundaries as parents for our kids. So why do we not have boundaries for ourselves? Because a lot of times when, my kids are stair-stepping age, they are 11, 9, 7, and 5. Well, one of them's about to be 9. And so I've got 11, 8, 7, 5, and they're all stair-stepping. Well, they're all 2 years apart, and we have boundaries for them, boundaries such as, hey, brush your teeth. Well, why? And it's no longer, well, because I said so. It's like, because you'll have maggots crawling out of your tongue if you don't brush your teeth. So we have boundaries for our kids. So if we have boundaries for our kids, why can we not set boundaries for ourselves? One pastor one time told me that I was working for, and it's been embedded in my mind for forever, for a really, really, really long time. It's been embedded in my mind. He said, Pastor Stewart, when you get in ministry, you have to eat, sleep, and breathe ministry. And I've thought about that a lot this week, thinking about different boundaries I'm supposed to have. And as someone that's a spiritual leader over me, I listen to that person. But now that I live, the more that I live and exist and I'm in ministry, I realize how wrong he was.
Right.
Now, ministry is it's 24/7. Yeah, it's like, someone one time said, well, I don't get an off day. Well, it's because you don't set an off day. You have to have boundaries. And so one of the first boundaries that I set coming out of youth ministry into full-time lead pastoring was that I put my phone on do not disturb mode at a certain time at night and then a certain time in the morning. And, this is just who I am. If someone calls you at 6:00 in the morning and you answer, you're telling them every single morning, if you call them at 6 a.m., they're available. So I don't answer the phone sometimes until 9 or 10 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning, like mid-afternoon, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to set a precedence. I'm not ignoring, but I've got to protect what I'm doing and who I am and what I've got to do, because if I don't, I am so busy and worried about what people are doing and want to care for people. This person's in the hospital. This person's here. This person's here. I got to go see this person. I haven't seen them in their house in a long time. You get bogged down by boundaries. So you have to set boundaries in a way and say, okay, this is not just protecting them, but this is protecting me.
Right. Yep. And something to kind of, I guess, head off all of this. That way we can really, really dive deep. You had a Bible verse that you had pulled up that that presents all this in a biblical way.
Yeah. So I think for me, and like, I'm just being very honest, very raw in who I am. I feel very, I feel very called to help my people, church people, but I feel a burden also for young pastors like myself and pastors too, because there's a lot of pastors that have been pastoring for years and years and years and years and years, and they're so burnt out on themselves by doing the work of God that it's no longer becoming about God anymore. It's just about becoming busy for Him. And so the Lord showed me something this week in Galatians chapter 6, and I'm not going to read every verse 1 through 5, but if you're listening, I encourage you to listen or read Galatians 6, 1 through 5. But in verse 2, it says, bear one another's burdens. I have read that scripture and listened to it over and over. And it says, and so fulfill the law of Christ. So when I bear someone else's burden, I'm fulfilling the law of Christ. And we stop there. And we're like, well, that's my job. Well, if you're not careful, if you don't set a boundary, their burden becomes your burden, and you've taken their burden off of them and you're carrying it when God said, I never called you to carry that. So if you go to verse 5, I'm not saying that we're not supposed to carry each other's burden, but here's the secret to it all. In Galatians 6, verse 5, it says, for each one shall bear his own load. Bearing someone else's burdens starts with them carrying their own burden first. So if someone comes into church or your job or comes into maybe where you are or comes into your life and you feel a burden to pay for this for them or pay for this, well, if you're not careful, if you don't set a boundary for that, people will manipulate your boundaries if you don't set them, and their burdens will overstep your boundaries. And so that's why you have to say, I have a boundary. So as pastors, as people, as, disciples of Christ, one thing that I have always struggled with, this is one of my biggest struggles, is that I've always thought to myself, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I've become so busy doing this. Last time we did when we remodeled the sanctuary 2 years ago, Lindsay told me, she said, when we started the building program, you're going on like a 3-month sabbatical. And she said, cause you drove me absolutely crazy. But I saw with us doing that, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. So I tried to stay busy and busy and busy, and ended up, I became so tired at the end of it and felt like I was letting my people down. Well, as a pastor and as I've said, is that people of God, like, you have to be careful and you have to set burdens for your own life, or you have to set boundaries for your own life, because if not, then their burdens will overstep your boundaries. I'm getting so tongue tied on this thing. Their burdens will overstep your boundary, and they will throw their burden on you, and they won't do anything about their own burden. So for me, I can go to an overseer, I can go to a counselor, I can go to my wife, I can go to a pastor friend of mine, and I can throw everything onto them, and I can lay everything emotionally on weight on them and vent to them. But at the end of the day, when I hang up that phone or say goodbye, guess who's the one that's carrying that? It's me. If I go to a grocery store and I'm like, man, I really don't feel like paying for this bill today. Hey, Patrick, Logan, y'all mind paying for mine and Lindsay's groceries today? It's only about $600-700 just this week. And you walk away. That's what people do with their burdens, is they just drop it on you. Well, then what that does is that burns you out, and you can't take care of your own family's burdens. You can't take care of yourself because you're so enamored by other people. So as pastors, if there's a pastor or a minister or a doctor or somebody watching right now, or a teacher, like, you have to people have to carry their own burdens before you do. If you don't carry your own burden or set a boundary, then their burdens is going to become your burdens. And what it's going to do is it's going to lead to your burnout. And I told the church the other week, I mean, I wasn't being rude or mean or anything. At the end of my lifetime, when I'm laying on my deathbed, it's not going to be my former pastor's friends. It's not going to be my best friends. It's not going to be former church members I have. It's not going to be my councilman. It's not going to be my deacon board. It's not going to be my staff laying around my bed. I hope. But guess who it is that's going to be my bedside? By my bedside, it's going to be my wife, and it's going to be my kids, and be my grandkids. And if you don't set boundaries at the end of the day, you're putting all your eggs in trying to become the answer to everybody's problem. When you set burdens, you're telling yourself and other people, hey, I'm not the answer to every problem. And that's the secret to it all, is that you and I are not the answer to everybody's problems. We are just vessels and avenues for Jesus to be the answer to their problem.
Yeah, we got to be careful that when accepting, or, I guess accepting is the right word. When we're accepting somebody else's burdens, we don't set up that expectation.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens.
Yeah.
Not saying this is the case for everybody, but there are people like you're talking about that will manipulate that and take advantage of the situation and go, all right, now I expect that time after time after time. And if you don't have a boundary, then, that allows them to run wild with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the battlefield of the mind is something that I think a lot of people struggle with today. And if anybody listening right now or watching is honest about it, they're struggling with boundaries. I don't know how to give God church time. I don't know how to work. I've got church, I've got work, I've got family, I've got kids stuff. Like, where does it end? Where does it end? Where does it end? What movie is that? It'll come to me like randomly. Anyways, it's like, no, it's all just going and going, and it doesn't stop. Well, for me, it's when things are really good in one area, they're really hectic in another. And so for me, what I have to do is I have to set boundaries in my mind and think, okay, a boundary also too is, there's three key relationships that we have to set boundaries in. We have to set boundaries in our marriage. We have to set boundaries in our friendships and our work. And we have to set boundaries with our kids, like parenting. Like, we have to. If you don't set boundaries in your marriage, you don't set boundaries with your kids and parenting and in work and friendships, you're going to go crazy and you're going to end up bald. No offense,
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Every time Lindsay cuts my hair, she's like, we need to start talking about this. And I'm like, what? Do I need to shoot up Rogaine every once in a while or something? But like, boundaries don't divide you. They define and they protect what is most precious to you. So in a marriage, like the other day, the kids were like, Daddy, I want that. Mama, Daddy, Mama. And I'm like, shh. Like, me and your mom are having time right now. This is our time. And it does not fail. She and I will read a book together, or we'll start praying together, and we'll hear, Mom, I'm thirsty. And I'm like, all right, I feel like y'all have a detector in your brain that says anytime mom and dad are fixing to do something together, it's like, oh, I got to go interrupt them, So you have to do that. In parenting, you also have to teach kids have consequences, or choices have consequences. You have to teach them the law of sowing and reaping. Like, it's not easy. It's hard to sow, but what you sow, you reap. You touch a furnace, you're going to get burnt. Yep. You also have to set boundaries with your friendships and work. So it's like, I watched this Steve Harvey thing the other day. Steve Harvey is one of the funniest dudes in the world, one of the funniest hosts, even though I wish he would, get really saved and clean up his mouth. And he was doing these, it's Steve Q&A time with the crowd, and this woman gets up and she said, Steve, my husband has a problem with my mother-in-law, with my mama coming with us on vacation. And he stands up, and he's like a little 5 foot nothing dude. And he stands up and he says, Steve, I got a problem with this. She went on our honeymoon. And Steve goes, you let your mama go with you on your honeymoon? He said, I got a problem with that too. That's weird. And so boundaries, right? I mean, it's like every time you got someone coming over, it's like, when are we going to have family time? Like, if you don't have marriage time, if you don't have family time, if you're not careful, you're going to always be working and always be doing when you're off the clock, always trying to do something. That's something I've had to try to do, is try to reprogram my brain to do that, even in ministry, because honestly, be honest with you, past 15 years, that pastor that spoke that in my life, I have lived by that. And the more I see it now, I realize how wrong he was. Because don't listen to me. If someone calls me at 3:00 in the morning and they've had a major heart attack, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. But if someone calls me at 3:00 in the morning just to chat because they can't go to sleep and they got sleeping problems, I'm not answering that phone call. That's just how it is for me. All right, we need to move on before I really, really get in trouble.
Oh, all right then. Let's see here. So we were kind of talking about myths, boundaries that are myths. You want to dive into that just a little bit?
Woo! Myths. Myth number 1: if I set boundaries, people will leave me. No, they're not. If you set boundaries and people leave you, you never had them in the first place.
No, they were only using.
They were only there for you. If the only time people get excited whenever you are doing something for them and they're not doing anything for the kingdom or you yourself, they're just using you, man. They're just using you. So you got to watch those people. You need people in your corner that are going to clap for you when you succeed and mourn with you whenever you cry.
Yep.
I heard someone say this the other day. How'd they say it? Don't let people in your life dance with you in the rain when they left you in the drought. If you are in a drought season and people leave you, but they come back when everything's good and you are reigning in the Spirit of God in your life. Those are the only times things are going really good in your life and you got people attracted to you. Hey, ding, 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 ding. There's a boundary right there. They only want in your life because what can you give them? As friends and as family, it's not what we can give each other, but it's who we are for each other. Ecclesiastes says 2 is better than 1. If one falls down and one is cold, woe to him that leaves that person down and keeps them down and doesn't cover him up. But 2 are better than 1, but a three-strand cord is not easily broken. So you have to set those kind of boundaries in the sense of, if people leave you, let them leave. Let them leave. I had a youth leader one time tell me they wanted to meet with us, and they said, Pastor Stewart, Miss Lindsay, we just feel like God is leading us a different direction. And I was like, okay. And they were like, that's it? Okay, that's it. And I was like, well, yeah. I'm not going to hold you here doing this if you don't feel like this is what God wants you to do. Because what I've always learned is that if someone leaves you, God's just going to replace them with 3 or 4 others. He does it every single time. So if I set boundaries, people leave you, then that means that they didn't respect who you were and what you believe in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what that situation was. Or, God's, like you said, going to replace them with 3 or 4. They've got a calling somewhere else, and there's somebody who's called to fill their spot.
Right.
That's just all there is to it.
Right. Let me break some pastor heart right here, or churchgoer, however this will be, however it speaks to you. There will always be a better person than you. Always. So when people leave our church, for a mega church down the road, I don't get my feelings hurt because that person has been to 7 different churches in the last 6 months. So the problem is not me. The problem is not our church. The problem is them. Uh, someone one time told me, if everywhere you go stinks, it's probably time to check your own shoes.
Yep.
Like you have to check where you are, because when we set boundaries, we think that it's unchristian. Here's another myth. We think it's unchristian to say no. Well, what does yes get you all the time? There's a movie. Have y'all ever seen it? It's a movie called Yes Day. A Netflix, Hulu, something like that. It's got Jennifer Garner in it and whatever. The parents say, we're going to give y'all, the kids, y'all get a yes day, but here are the rules. You can't kill anybody. You can't do anything illegal. You can't do this. So everything that the kids want to do that day in those terms, they got to do it all. And my kids the other day said, Daddy, can we do a yes day? I said, every day is a yes day for y'all when you're at your grandparents' house. But no, you can't have a yes day in our house because we would be broke, we'd be poor, and I would probably be in a psych ward somewhere. So, but like as Christians, we think that it's not Christian to say no. If you say yes all the time, you're going to be so burnt out doing this, this, and this. You're not going to have time for yourself. Well, I should always be available. That's another myth. You don't have to be available to everybody every single time. You are not the Holy Ghost. You are not Jesus. It is not our responsibility to be everything for everybody. What boundaries does is it allows you to still love that person without losing yourself. Because what we do in our line of work, and just anybody could get lost in boundaries, is that we can still love people without losing ourselves. But a lot of people are so busy loving other people that they lose themselves, to where they're becoming so busy doing the work of the Lord that they forget the Lord of the work. And that's not what we're called to do at all.
No. And the thing about taking on other people's burdens and not setting those boundaries is usually that's very time consuming.
Yeah.
And if that becomes too time consuming, then you don't have time, like you said, for your own family, for your own things, and for your own studies. You can't grow in Christ if you don't have time to study because you're worried about everybody else's junk.
Right. Well, boundary. Here's like another little snippet, I guess you could say. We could go for hours and hours on this one. Boundaries allows you to have the power and the authority of saying no. You have to say no to some things. Like, I can do everything, but I don't want to do everything. I have a staff of people around me that are so more capable of doing this. You know more about podcasts than I do. God gave me the vision for it a while ago. I found someone that was capable of doing it, more capable, that was more excellent at it than I was. But what I found out is that in my last season of ministry that we were in, I got a high of saying yes to everything. You ever felt that way before?
Oh, yeah.
You get a yes, you get a high off of saying yes to everything. And when you get like this, I don't know, spiritual adrenaline every time you say yes to doing something, that is a sign that you need a boundary in your life. You need to say no. Well, you need to do students, you need to do media, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. What it does is what you're doing every time you say yes to something else, you're saying no to someone else that's more important. Right? Yep. So the problem is there's a balance, y'all. Here's the thing. Hear me out. There's a balance. You have to have a balance to it all. You can't say yes all the time. You can't say no all the time. People come in here all the time. Well, Pastor, I'm tired. Well, I just don't want. I don't want to do that. They don't sound like an 95-year-old decrepit man that has smoking lungs, whatever. They want to come in here and they want to sit and they say no. Well, I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm always tired. I'm always tired. Well, are you tired because you don't have boundaries and you don't know when to say no? And so what happens is the first thing that goes is the church. First thing that goes in a relationship with God is the church. Watch it. Mark it down. People vacation more, people miss church more, people start using family as an excuse to miss church more and more and more and more and more. Now, family's important, right?
Yeah.
Jesus died for the family, but it's not. The church is the bride of Christ. Well, I don't need to go. Okay, well, you get your car filled up one time a month and you see how long your car runs. It
Yeah.
don't run. I've got to have like-minded believers and people around me. So when I say no, saying no is just means that I'm protecting my yes. I have to say yes to my family. I have to say yes to my job. I have to say yes to Jesus and the church. Like there's things that got to be done.
Yep.
But if I tell Buddy Palmer, hey buddy, hey, we got a light bulb out, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can change the light bulb. Easy. But that's what kind of falls in his job. I'm not saying I'm too good to do that, but I'm like, hey buddy, there's a bulb out, or hey, there's a siding of the church is blown away. Can you check on it? I can put a 2x4 up, but I have other people that are willing to do that in a better way. So that allows me to say, yes, I can be a greeter.
Yeah.
I can be a door opener. I can run the merchandise table. I can play acoustic guitar. I can somewhat kind of maybe sometimes sing. I can run the computer, but you have to, with me saying no to those things and having other people able to do that in a better way, that allows my yes to have more strength and the more anointing in that. So when someone says, hey, Pastor, Sunday night, I'm going to have a Bible study at the church. It's a good thing.
Right.
Good thing. Can you come be a part of it? No, we got family night. We had it penciled in 3 or 4 weeks ago. We've been talking about it. I can't believe he would turn down Bible study for his family. You darn right I will.
Yeah.
Every single time. And so you have to protect your yes, and you do that by saying no.
Yep. So you saying that, I'm going to tell on myself a little bit, and Logan is here in the room. I know most people listening have kind of gathered that at this point, but and it's going to relate a little bit to both church and work. In my previous employment, my supervisor, general manager, I had a hard time telling him no.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to the point to where he would ask me to do a lot of things that, like you said, he could have handled or somebody else could have handled. But, hey, yes. And eventually that started taking time away from Logan and the kids. It also started taking time away from my things throughout the week,
Right.
as far as study time and stuff like that, because I was doing things
Right.
early and then late. But then also it took a toll on my morals
Right.
and my soul, because there were things that I started to get asked that was more in that gray or dark gray area.
Yeah.
And it was still hard to say no.
Right.
And that's something that I've had to, I don't want to make it sound like an addiction or something, but something that I've had to kind of recover from.
Right. Like PTSD.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And thank the good Lord, coming here and being able to have friends and people who are on fire for God around me,
Yeah,
has helped heal a lot of those wounds. Again, this whole thing you're talking about, they didn't necessarily pick up my burdens and carry them for me, but they helped equip me to carry my own.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of it. You can help people and you can give them tools and point them in the right direction without fully taking on the burden.
Well, healthy people will respect your no. Unhealthy people won't.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Back up, erase. Healthy, godly people will respect your no, but unhealthy and ungodly people won't. Pastor, did you know, can we get, I said, I've said this from the pulpit a few times. Someone comes to you and says, hey, we've got a kitchen ministry, a homeless guy here down the road. What can the church do? And I'll say, what can you do? You are the church.
Yep.
It doesn't have to go through a board of committee members to get approval for you to go buy a bag of groceries for somebody. Lindsay and I can't, anyways, the Bible says don't boast about those things. We've done those things, but I've not called my deacon board and said, hey, y'all, my wife and I, we feel burdened to buy these people $200 worth of groceries that we're going to pay out of our own pocket. Is that okay? No,
Yeah.
you don't do that. Just do it. You are the church. Like, you have to do that.
Yep.
But healthy people are going to, when you say no to them, they're going to be like, I respect that.
Yep.
I respect that. But unhealthy, ungodly people will be like, I cannot believe that they just did that. Well, did you? And people, no matter how hard you try, people are always going to not make fun of you. They're going to make you feel bad for not knowing a certain situation. That's, to me, like if someone says something to me and says, well, hey, pastor, like, did you know so-and-so was in the hospital? I was like, I didn't have a clue. Well, I've got to the point of saying to myself, I just don't know. Like, I used to become very, like, we call this in the counseling world, or in the counseling world, when someone's corrected or something like that happens, you become an inner child again. And like, I would become like a child anytime I would hear that, and it'd be like, well, I'm not doing my job, like, and you like, at some point you have to grow up and be like, you don't know what you don't know. Like, you're not a, psychopath. Well, psychopath really is the same thing. Whatever that word is, not psychotic. What is it? Telescopic, whatever it is. Like, you vision everything. I'm not Superman. I don't know everything. And it's like, baby, where you want to go eat? Oh, you want Applebee's? I can tell by your twitching of your left eye. No, you don't know. If something happens, you got to tell them.
Getting some clairvoyance over there.
Yeah, for real. So it's like, yeah, we were driving down the road today, and I asked her, I said, hey, I've got going to do the podcast. I know you're not going to go with me. I was hoping she would. And I was like, what are you going to do for the kids? I don't know. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Well, I'll just run in a Dollar General and I'll pick up a bag of chicken nuggets and we'll just deal with it. She's like, okay, well, that's fine. Well, I understand that about her now. Sometimes my wife's like, I don't want to make those decisions. You just make them. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. I'll do it. Like, we were driving down the road today, and there was a car that was riding my tail. And I remember I was getting kind of nervous because I was like, oh, it's a double lane. It's curvy. Like, I'm already going 65, 70 miles an hour down this curvy road, kind of. And I was driving, and I'm like, okay, is this guy fixing to hit me? Is he fixing to go around me? But then what I did was I stopped boundaries. Okay.
Yep.
I stopped focusing on the side mirror, and I focused on the windshield in front of me, and I controlled my speed and what I was doing. And what boundaries does in that situation, everyday situation, is boundaries allows you to focus in what you're supposed to be doing. Because if I were so focused on that guy, I was riding my tail and what he was doing, I would have probably ran off the road. I would have sped. My kids would have probably yelled and would have made me snap, whatever it might have been. So it made me focus on where I was. Boundaries doesn't let me worry about what other people are doing, how they're reacting, or what they may or may not be doing. It allows me to focus on what I'm supposed to be doing to do my job and to make myself healthy. Here's the thing that we have to get to. Boundaries is more about keeping you healthy instead of keeping other people healthy.
Yes.
Man, boy, that struck a chord right there, because boundaries is what keeps you healthy. And right now, in a point in life, 36 years old, do I want to be rich and famous one day? I would love to be rich one day. Do I want to be famous? I could care less. But if I have boundaries, it's keeping me healthy. It's keeping my wife and our marriage healthy, and it's keeping my kids healthy. If none of that is healthy, then the church won't be healthy either. That's why I had a pastor friend, or a pastor that I love and respect very, very dearly. He pastored a church for about 8 years, very amazing growing church. He looked at me one day and said, you know what, Stewart, if I would have taken a sabbatical, I would have probably pastored that church another 8 to 10 years. And I've always thought about that, because he was so busy doing stuff for the church, and the church was growing. When my family suffered the most? I'm being very raw and very transparent right now. When my family suffered the most? When my youth ministry group was the most.
Mm.
When my youth ministry was at its peak, when our youth ministry days was at its peak, and we were running, seriously, 150 kids every Wednesday night. One night we had an invite night. We had 300 kids that night. That night, like, I did a lot of stupid things looking back now. I told the people, I said, if you bring 300 people that night, I will shave OPC inside of my head. I will jump in a dumpster and I will find whatever's in there and I will eat something and I will drink whatever's in there. Just bring 300 people. Guy at that church one night, I could call him out right now if I wanted to. His name is, I won't say it out. I'm just kidding. He commented on Facebook post that we did and said, "This is the dumbest thing in the world. Why in the world why would he do that?" And I commented on and said, tagged him and I said, because 8 kids got saved tonight. 300 kids came to our youth group that night and 8 kids got saved. That is why I did something stupid and, didn't say anything. But going back to what I was saying, we had 150 kids almost every Wednesday night. But because that was at its peak, our youth ministry peak, but that's when my family was at its lowest.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize, and I can say this because I've removed myself from that situation, it's almost like what you said, you have PTSD from those moments sometimes. Yeah. People see international offices, the state office, your parents, your leaders, your pastor. Everybody sees the amazing social media highlight reel from that Wednesday night and every Wednesday night. But what they don't see is when you and your family are at each other's wits' end because you are giving so much to the ministry to where you have nothing else to give. They don't see you sitting in your kid's school parking lot crying, saying, "God, why have I put myself in this situation?" They do not see that. And when Cason's like, "Daddy, where are you going?" I mean, this is real stuff right here, real raw stuff. "Daddy, where are you going?" I need to go away. I need to get away. And you sit in your kids, again, youth ministries, 150, 200 kids every Wednesday night. I'm trying to press that in for people that are listening right now. But then you see that, but what you don't see is sitting in your car wondering if life was enough.
Yep.
And you're going, everybody loves me for this, but they don't have any idea about what the struggle is to get there. And to be honest with you, do I want our church to grow? Absolutely. I want our church to grow so big and us to have a structure at this church to where we can house the people of God coming and hurt people. And I want them to get discipled and send them back out. That's what I want. But more than anything, I don't want a growing church. I don't want to grow in church. I don't want a church that grows. I want a healthy church. Because if you think about cancer grows. Cancer grows. I need a church that is healthy. And so if you want to be healthy and you want our church to be healthy, then you need to be healthy and your family needs to be healthy.
Yeah. I like the way that you put that into a health side of it. Like, yeah, cancer usually grows fast and quick.
Yeah.
And it's harmful. But like you watch these guys who work out all the time and stuff that do it naturally. I'm going to preface that.
Right.
When they're healthy, that muscle grows slow, but over time,
right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm going to throw a little bit of I guess not a story, but a comment about the whole sabbatical thing and just how big of a difference that makes. I guess somewhat of a distant acquaintance, friend of ours, actually from TMC, Jonathan Gann, did the exact same
love
thing.
Jay Gann, the man.
Yeah, he was doing the youth program at TMC and was like, all of a sudden, we didn't see him for a few months. He took about a 6-month sabbatical and came back, and he preached on the prodigal son. And of all things, I've heard that preached probably 30, 40 times in my life. I've never heard it preached that way or from that perspective.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And he said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That he was at the point to where he wasn't sure if life was even worth living anymore at that point.
Yep.
Had to take a step away. And he said at that point, he had got closer to God than he'd ever been in his life.
Yep. I want to be healthy. And if you're healthy, you're going to grow. what boundaries identifies who you are in Christ, and it keeps you who you are in Christ. Because if not, good people will drag the good out of you and they will distract you from the great things. So if you look at scripture, even Jesus had boundaries in Mark chapter 1. After he fed the multitudes, what did he do? He stayed and swept up because he's such a servant of the Most High God. Oh, he pampered to the people and he sat at the tables and talked to it. He went away to the mountainside. Like, now listen to me. A boundary is not a pastor who comes in the side door and leaves out the side door and doesn't talk to people and thinks he is the greatest thing since a Slim Jim. Those things do not take place. We have more playboys in the pulpit than we do preachers and prayer warriors in the pulpit. That's one thing. And you want to think, I'm getting on another subject. God is removing those people that are taking advantage of the pulpit.
Yep.
Because when we think ministry and pulpit is all about us, you better get ready for God to remove his hand off your life. And sometimes I'm like, God, why am I feeling what I'm feeling? And he reminded me of the day, you remember the last time you prayed for you to feel what I'm feeling for my people and what other people are feeling? I'm like, yeah, I do. Well, now I know why I feel the way that I do sometimes. And God has given me a loudmouth for a reason sometimes. My mom told me one day, she said, I always asked God why you were so stubborn growing up. Why so? And she told us a while back, she said, I think God gave you the spiritual gift of being stubborn because it was easy for you to say no to things. You throw a joint, you throw alcohol in front of me, you throw a club, you can throw poker, you can throw anything you want. I'd be like, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I don't have to do all that stuff. So I was able to say no to that. Now there's things that as humans you struggle with, but what Jesus did is after he did all this stuff, he went away and secluded himself in isolation with him and the Lord. And all he did was just rest and pray. He had to do that. He had to do that. So boundaries are not selfish. They are not you rejecting other people. It's boundaries are not you saying, hey, I lack the gift of love in my life towards you. No, that's what you having boundaries is actually saying, I love you enough to step away and to back away from some things. And, for example, I could visit 3 or 4 people in our church that are at home and make a hospital visit in Chattanooga and it'll eat up my whole day.
Yep.
If I did that every day for a week, so 5 days, if I made 5 visits, 5 days, I would only visit 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I'd only visit 25 people in our church. 25 people in our church. What about the other 175 people in our church? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Oh, what about the other 5 at my house? What about them? And so it's like you get so bogged down honestly, I don't know. I came from a very high octane church, always doing something. And I come here and I felt like it was a good balance. Like I sped the church up, but they slowed me down.
Right.
And someone made a comment, well, we're never going to be that church. And I'm like, I don't want to be that church. I want to be us, but I want to be me. And the only way for our church to be healthy is for me to have boundaries and to keep myself healthy, to keep my wife and my marriage healthy, my family healthy. And if that happens, I promise you, y'all, our church is going to be healthy. Yeah. Well, people are going to get mad. People are going to leave because you're not giving them attention. Again, it goes back to they were never with you in the first place.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, you are the pastor, but that's not just your job as a congregation. That's all of our job to pitch in, check on people and stuff. That's not just yours. That's the body's, and I think a lot of people lose sight of that.
Yeah.
So, and I know you've touched on it a little bit, but is there any major boundaries that you feel like need to be set in a church setting, like things that are crossing a line for a pastor or to a pastor from the congregation?
You talking about me speaking to a pastor or a new pastor or something like that looking in, or from the congregation's view?
From the congregation's view, like if say I ask you 5 days in a row to let's go play golf, that's going to be
I would say yes right now.
with all the stuff, other things that you've got. I'm sure that would be at some point crossing the boundary.
Yeah,
So-
Roger Russell looked at me the other day. He said, "What you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I'm actually going to play golf." He said, "Good. You need to relax." I'm like, "Brother, golf is not relaxing to me. I stress out so bad. It's like I took like 9 new Titleist balls the other day. I came home with like 3. So, anyways, sorry.
That's awesome. At least I'm not the only one.
Yep.
Oh, but like something like that along those lines. Like, is there certain things that the congregation you feel like not necessarily here, but congregations in general ask of the pastor that may be crossing a line that's not necessarily his responsibility, or
Yeah.
that puts a detriment to his family and their well-being?
Yeah. I think, man, that's a very loaded question. Could you not have asked me that earlier so I could have prepped for that? I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
No, I mean, that's a really good question. It's a really valid question. First thing I would say is that the pastor, your pastor, is not Superman. He's human. He's not going to be able to do everything all the time. You know, he's going to have a lot of weak moments. He's going to have a lot of failures, but I promise you, he's always thinking about you and he's always praying for you. He's the biggest struggle, the biggest mindset battle in the church, I promise you, is at that pulpit, or before the pulpit. The battle before the pulpit is the hardest moment that I personally deal with, but a lot of pastors deal with. Number 2, he's not Superman in this. I said that first one. He's not Superman in the sense of that, like, it's like, raise him up, like, please do not put your pastor on a pedestal. Honor the mess out of him and his family. Do it. Like, respect him, like, respect his time. But like, this is what I get a lot of times. We have an amazing church. We really do. Like, there's some people that will call me and say, "Hey, pastor, I didn't mean to bother you, but," and I'm like, "I promise you, you're not bothering me. Like, you're fine. Like, that's my job." But like, I've had people say 10 minutes before I get on that pulpit, "Hey, pastor, can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "No, but you can call me later on this week. I'm in the office and I've got plenty ample time throughout the week. That means you can talk, not 10 minutes before service, because that shifts my
Yep.
brain in another direction." So honor him, love him, respect him. Respect from me goes a long way. I feel like respect has to be, I've got a bug flying everywhere and I'm fixing to punch that thing out of this world. Respect goes a long way for me because respect is something that is earned. It is not something that is demanded.
Yeah.
You'll never hear me say this to somebody. One time, somebody in the church walked up to my old pastor and said, "Hey, buddy." And he had had enough of it. And pastor finally, I almost said my pastor's name at that time. He looked at him and said, "I'm not your buddy. I'm your pastor." And I'm like he's fixing to lay into his rear end. Like, I am never going to demand anybody's respect. I'm not going to demand and reprimand someone if they don't call me pastor. Like, that is something that they have to learn. That is something that people have to identify. So that's a level of respect. But more than that, I tell people all the time, if you want to honor me, you do these 2 things. I love being, anyways, you do these 2 things to honor me. You follow the vision of the house and just love my family.
Yep.
That's all it takes for me. That's all. I told my secretary and my staff one time, this is last year, they didn't do it. They didn't disobey. So, they're not going to get paid this week. So anyways, I told them, I said, for pastor appreciation, because they always do it. Pastor appreciation is the most awkward day of the week, of the year. It's awful. I can't stand it. I hate it because just don't like it. I do not like it. But they're like, you need to get over it and you need to shut up and you need to deal with it. Well, I told Rita, my secretary and the staff one time, I said, for Pastor Appreciation this year, I want you to honor my wife and my kids. And they're like, we will. Well, they disobeyed me. And then they throw me in the mix. And I'm like, no, I don't want anything. Like, my kids and wife deserve so much. Like, they deserve so much. Another thing about that is that, oh my God, I would probably say, respect. What was your question again? Not respecting.
Well, just like, what are some boundaries that don't need to be crossed between the congregation approaching you, I guess, and or your family?
Well, in general, that's what he's talking about. Not just me. He's talking about in general. Okay. By the way, I would say an unhealthy boundary is a woman having any kind of, like, meeting or contact with the pastor without the pastor's wife. Like, my initial thing is, if I want to know how you're doing, unless you're laid up on your back or your rear end and you have, God, please don't ever let that happen. You've had a stroke and you can't talk and you are mute. I'm not going to text Logan on a Monday and go, how's your marriage doing?
Yeah.
How's Patrick doing? I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do that. So I think a level of respect is not just for, because as pastors, that we are so drawn to wanting to help everybody, but in your good motives, it can hurt you in the long run. Whereas I know a pastor, I use that term very loosely right now with this individual. They would counsel a husband and a wife. It's true stuff right here. They'd counsel a husband and wife. Husband and wife are having marital problems, and they would leave that. Pastor's wife would not be present, which is another, like, safety thing right there. But he would leave that altercation with them and would leave, and he would text the wife and go, I'd never treat my wife like that. I would never do that. And so, and you wonder why people get in a mess that they're in, because they are not creating boundaries. For me, for you, for our spouses, we can't be in any closed door with, well, they're just my friend. They're my friend. Well, the devil can turn a friend into an adversary in 30 seconds and ruin your reputation. It only takes one unguarded moment to bring down your entire reputation that you've spent your whole life trying to, So I would say, there's a boundary right there with the gender thing. So if a, specifically, while ago, there was a newcomer that came to church and they messaged me, and she was kind of like, just, God love them, period, dot, 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 dot. Like, I cannot enter in what I want to say. You just knew something was off.
Right.
And something kicked into me. Well, she messaged me on Facebook and she said, hey, remembering me in prayer, remember this, blah, 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 blah. Well, I brought Lindsay immediately into the conversation and I let Lindsay reply to it. I was not going to be a part of that conversation, because what it's doing is, with me doing that, it shows that I'm easily accessible to the opposite sex, which, again, that's something Lindsay and I have guarded and, tried to guard the best we can. Like, you have to have that kind of boundary. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that you can't look at my wife and say, okay, hey, how are y'all doing? Hey, be friendly.
Yeah.
But, like, if you walk in a door and the only thing you're attracted to is, like, to the opposite sex, it's like, I'm like, bro, you got a problem. Well, we've seen them before, dude. They're weirdos. And it's like, okay, you need to back up just a bit. So that's kind of like a level of respect right there. Because if again, I'm not trying to get onto this, because this is something that ministers fall on. Like, a lot of pastors fall because they've met one-on-one with the opposite sex.
Yep.
Well, my wife knows. She's not in the room. Nobody knows what's going on. Nowadays, you can't meet with a dude by yourself
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Pee Wee Herman over here is attracted. Never mind.
Tape everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. And it's like you have to protect yourself and set those boundaries. Well, it's going to make them mad. Well, if it makes them mad, let them make them mad. A boundary does not make you responsible for how someone acts or reacts. It only protects your yes, and your no protects your yes. So
Yep. No, and I feel like a lot of people, like you mentioned, if they're healthy, at least in their mindset,
right,
they'll appreciate that. So just to preface it, bringing it to the podcast,
right,
when we had Whitney on, I did start that conversation, but it was with Logan and her both
absolutely.
in the message. It was a, hey, Whitney, we want you on here. Logan's going to interview you. Thanks if you want to do this. And then
Logan gave an eye roll and she pumped that shotgun at you. And
yeah, but
she
then
was so mad.
Whitney handled it from there.
Right. Right.
That was,
Right.
and I think that, and me and Whitney have been friends since high school.
Right.
But
right.
we're both married. That's just a given. And I think that's an important part that a lot of people overlook is there's those boundaries inside the church. Just because we feel like this is a safe space does not mean that those boundaries shouldn't still be up especially between genders.
Right. Well, boundaries, like when you think about that too, is like I have a boundary not to cross into your lane thinking, okay, Logan and Patrick are probably thinking this. Well, that's a boundary I've crossed, because a lot of time people are not thinking that, but what the devil has done is planted something in your mind that's caused you to think that way. Well, they think I'm not doing enough. They don't think that I love them. They don't think I check on them enough. Like the devil will placate that stuff so much that it will make you enter into their mind and make you, I'm entering into your mind before I come to Sunday, and I'm thinking, okay, Patrick and Logan's really upset at me because I may have said something that I'm using as an example. I'm not thought about this on the podcast that I probably made them very, very upset and very uncomfortable. Man, I shouldn't have done that. And when we show up, it's like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. And y'all are like, what in the mess is wrong with that joker? What's wrong with Pastor today? Like something's wrong with him. And it's like, what's going on? I've crossed a boundary into y'all's mind thinking y'all thought that when y'all haven't thought that. Man, I'm confusing myself about how you think things and I don't think things. Okay. So you have to you cannot cross that boundary. Even in marriage. It's like Holly, I'm going to tell on myself here and tell on Patrick too.
Yes.
Like Lindsay, I don't know if your wife has this. She has a face. It's a resting face. That's like, do you hate the world right now? Do you hate me right now? Or what's the deal? My wife is the sweetest, most level-headed, loving, giving, serving person that I know. But like sometimes I look at her and go, what did I do? Sometimes I'll look in the bed, lay in the bed with her, and I'll go, what did I do? And she's like, nothing. I'm just tired. I'm like, bull junk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's a boundary. You cannot cross that boundary. All right, we better move on before I get in trouble.
The worst part is when you read the face and then the tone comes with it and you're like, wait a second.
I'm not mad. I really would hate to see you mad or hear you mad. Like are there ways that you cross the boundaries in marriage? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So like when you think about practical ways that you set boundaries in your life, like it always starts with the first thing. Well, what's the best thing for me to do when setting a boundary? You have to identify the one area, not 3 or 4 areas, not 6 areas, one area of your life to where you feel drained or you feel taken advantage of. Okay. This was me years ago, or like even coming here, just being honest, I felt like I had to answer everybody's call all the time.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it anymore. I just can't. I had someone finally look at me and say, you have to stop. Like you have to stop. You're going to kill yourself.
Right.
And you're going to go insane. And So I had to identify the area to where I felt the most drained. I felt like I was doing something really good, but what it was doing is it was draining. That doesn't mean don't answer anything. That just means that you don't answer everything,
Yeah.
you know, all the time for multiple reasons. So you identify, okay, I can't answer the phone all the time. I can't answer the phone past 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Just say that, for example, for you. I will not answer the phone past 7 o'clock. I will put my phone. Sometimes I put my phone, seriously. I'll have one time my clerk and I were talking, and I set my phone away, and he's like, "Who's that? Who's that? Who's that?" He's like, "My God, your phone rings more than mine." I'm like, "Dude, this is all the time." And sometimes I'll lay my phone in my bedside and put it on vibrate for a reason. Sometimes I'll turn it off because I cannot focus if it's always ding. There are times where I take my watch off. I've done stuff with my phone, with my watch, to where not everything comes to my watch now, because it's like, oh my God, everything's going on. Like the camera's going off, the church camera's going off at home. Oh, I just got that email. Oh, I got that text. I got that call. I mean, it's exhausting talking about it. So you identify the area that you're the most drained at. And number two, you have to write a boundary statement and stick to that boundary statement. Okay, so I'm not going to answer the phone call after 7 o'clock. Okay. And here's the other thing. When you set boundaries, you owe no one an explanation.
Yep.
Patrick, I used to lay my phone down and someone would call me and I'd answer it, seriously. And I would lay it down, I'd answer it, and I'll call them back, whatever time it was. And I'd be like, man, sorry, I was doing this and this and this and this. And hey, I had to pick up this and I go to this. I don't owe anybody an explanation. What I've done is I have lit them too much into my inner circle of saying, hey, this is what I do on a regular basis. And there's nothing wrong with it to a point,
Yeah.
but you don't owe anyone an explanation. And you have to, and then, obviously you have to surround your people that support those healthy boundaries. You have to find an accountability partner and people that will hold you accountable to that.
And it's awesome you say that, because I'd never really thought about it up until one of my best friends, we started working together a few years back, and he told me, like, week one, we rode together. He told me, like, week one, he goes, don't call me after 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Like, and he kind of said it jokingly, but then there was a couple times where I'd like text him that first couple weeks at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, no response.
Yep.
5 o'clock in the morning while I'm still asleep. Hey, since you text me late, I'm up.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't want you texting me at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
So
Boundary.
that was kind of one of those respect mine, I'll respect yours.
Boundary.
And now there's no question about it. Now, but if I see his phone call come through after 9 o'clock, I know it's important.
Yep.
Something's bad's happened. I need to answer the phone.
Yep.
But it gave me a big sense of respect for his boundaries, and in turn his for mine. And it really, really helped. That was a very small thing, but a growing period for
absolutely.
me. And to see that.
We did a midweek series before the young adults branched out, and we started that group. Whitney Clayton, she'll still talk about it. We went through a book called The Blessing, and talking about one of the boundaries we'd set. And that's when I learned to set this boundary, is to set do not disturb on your phone. She's like, I never thought about that, Pastor. I never thought about that. And I'm like, neither did I. I never knew it existed or why it exists. We have so many tools that work to our advantage or our disadvantage. But Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says this: guard your heart above all else, for it is the fountain of life that flows from it. So everything that you let in your heart determines what will flow out of your life. The Bible also says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Yep.
Whatever's in your heart is eventually going to come out. Jesus loved people so much. There was nobody on earth that loved people more than Jesus, the Lord and the creator of this world. He loved people more than you and I love each other, but he never let people control his mission and his vision. Boundaries that he set, he had to go off and pray, to rest and to pray. But at the end of the day, boundaries allow you to love like Christ and to lead like Christ. If I don't set boundaries, listen to me very, very carefully. If I don't set boundaries, I will never be able to lead and love my family and my church that God has called me to shepherd at the end of the day if I do not set boundaries. When I set boundaries, I do it because I love you. Because when I don't set boundaries, it's like a dude that don't take medication. He goes off the walls.
Right.
If I don't set boundaries, I will go crazy. And what I've learned over the course of my short period of time that I've lived so far, just because I can doesn't mean that I should. Because well, you're young enough. You can deal with it now. Visit calling these people. You can deal with it. You can deal with it. Oh, really? Can I? Man, a little plug in here. We got new furniture for my office, and I looked at my wife that day and I was like, you have an anointing on your life right now to put that desk together. I know you do. She's like, I'll do it. I'll come do it. I was like, God is going to bless you abundantly right now. Well, I was picking up a bunch of stuff and I started helping her, whatever. I killed my back. Like it hurt. It is on fire. And she's like, you need to get over it. I did the desk all by myself. I'm like, you did a majority of it, but I have done something on back. I think I picked the whole huge 2-3 boxes up and put it in my truck, and it just like wore my back out. Well, I'm young enough doesn't mean that I should. I used to do that a lot when I was younger. And someone really wise one time told me, said, you're going to regret it one day. You're going to regret it one day. Just because you can call those people, just because you can call everyone, because you can visit everyone, because you can check on everyone, because you can grow a church of 500 and pastor a church of 500 by yourself, just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if people are in your corner because of what you're doing for them, I would rather, for me, at my day and age that I'm in right now, I'm at a place in my life, and you're like, man, you're old. Yeah, I am. I go to bed at 9:30 every night. I try to drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning, take my medicine and my vitamins, all 16,000 of them in the morning. I feel like I'm getting old, man. I'm only 36. And, I want to grow to where I can watch my kids grow up. I want to go to where I want to grow old to where I can watch my grandkids play ball. I want to be there with my kids because, man, I can't tell you how many times I've been at a ball game and I've got a phone call and it'll ring and I look away and I answer that phone call. Oh yeah, I'm good. What's up? What is it? Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you're dealing with this. Okay. What is it? And then I've just missed my son hit a home run.
Yeah.
It's give or take boundaries. You have to figure out that person that called you. If they love you and they know you, they'll wait.
Yep. They'll wait on that response.
Don't, how do I need to say this? Do not win that person that just called you at the cost of your children.
Yep.
Don't.
No, that's huge. And I think that's like, at the end of the day, that's the basis for all this, is just setting those boundaries to keep everyone, including yourself, healthy in your circle.
Yeah. Like, where is it ending? I guess you could end with this question, like for people that are listening right now, or maybe even just you don't have to answer it. But like, these are things that I have to think about all the time, is that where in your life do you need to draw a line for your health, your peace, and your calling?
Yep.
Where do you need to draw the line and set a boundary to keep peace, to keep your health, and to keep your calling? I read a scary statistic today that said, what did it say? 70 to 80% of Americans deal with some kind of mental health.
I believe it.
I think, honestly, everything nowadays, being honest with you, is in the name of anxiety and depression. Everything is in the name of anxiety and depression.
Yep.
People go through things and they use anxiety and depression to get medication, to get attention, to get seen to, whatever it may be. And people have real life issues. I'm not forsaking that at all. Yep. But like, where in your life to where, I've heard pastors say, "Man, I used to weigh how much you weighed back when I was that old day," and they're like, not saying heaviness comes with stress, but when people are stressed, like
Yeah.
they get heavy. And so my wife, she was cutting my hair last night, and she made the comment. She said, "Stuart, we really need to start talking about what you're going to do with your hair." And I'm like, "I'm not going to shave it and get a toupee. Like I ain't doing that." And she like kind of jokes about it, but she's like doing it in a way of saying, "You are losing your hair." And I'm like, "Why? Like, why?" And I said, "Do you think it's stress?" And she said, "100% I think it's stress.
Yep.
100%. And I used to have a, thing of hair, whatever. I'm going to keep my hair, whatever. I'm not going to be like that guy that looks like Doug off of the Rugrats to where he's like completely bald and he has a little small little patch right there. I have a friend that looks like that. And I'm like, you ever came to spend the night? I'd go, I'd shave that little,
Yeah.
I'd shave that little mohawk over. Or Tommy, it was Tommy on Rugrats. That's it. What'd I say?
Doug.
Oh, Doug, I ain't Doug Funny. Doug Funny had the football head, I feel like.
That was Arnold.
That was definitely Arnold, not Doug. Who's Doug? Oh, Doug Funny. Doug Funny had a hair like that.
He had some hair like that.
So, anyways, I looked at my wife. I was like, "Am I losing my hair because of stress?" She said, 100%. And a lot of the stress that she tells me that I have is I put on myself. And so there, right there is another boundary. And she has this joke with me, not really joke, but it's true. If I get it on my mind, it's not coming off. I've got my mind on, Kid Fest. They're redoing the stage for Kid Fest. That's a plug coming up. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Yep.
They're having to redo the stage for that. And I'm thinking, okay, while all that's tore down, I've got new lights coming to update some lighting here at the church, make it visually better. I've got a new lens for our live stream camera. I got new lights coming. I want to put some TVs, different play. I want to just change it, make it more simple.
Right.
And she's like, "Well, you get it on your mind, you're not going to get it off." Like my personality is right now, it's, almost bedtime. I could run to Walmart and pick 2 huge TVs and hang them tonight and be done for in the morning. But boundaries. Just because I can doesn't mean that I should.
Right. So just a real quick, I guess, outro question before we get into the plug, just because you mentioned it earlier, and this is more for my sake than anybody out there listening. You made the comment talking about the respect side of it. And this is not necessarily coming out of a respect versus disrespect side, but if here at the church, everybody that I've witnessed personally, Pastor Stewart and Miss Lindsay, in a less formal setting, do you still prefer to be called Pastor Stewart, or do you like?
That's an awkward question.
It is,
being very, very honest.
But I would like to know.
Call me whatever you want to call me.
So, but here's the reason I ask. So you're sitting at a baseball game, and a parent walks up, "Hey, Stewart, how are you?" But they go to the church, and you're in a group. Is that easier on you, or is it more like?
It's awkward. I mean, it's awkward because I don't demand anything. I really, really don't. I don't demand anything. Like, but like, just from my point of view, is that if I'm at church with, like Pastor David, I have a few pastors. No matter where I am, they will always be pastor. They will always be Pastor David to me. When they walk in and preach, they will always be pastor. When we sit down, they will be pastor. When we go to a ball game, they will be pastor to me. So if I'm at a ball game and I see Pastor David or Pastor Box at a ball game, those are 2 former pastors of mine that I hold very near and dear to my heart. I am not going to look at him at a restaurant and go, "Hey, Kip. Hey, David. How's it going, man?" I'm going to be like, I'm walking up to him, hey, Pastor, how you doing?
Yeah.
It's just a level of respect. So if that answers your question.
It does actually. And I'm glad you answered it in that way, because I know like, my boys, I don't even know if they know that your first name's Stewart. I think they think it's Pastor.
Right. Right.
But,
that happens.
And then you've got Alex's boy, Asher.
Bo. Alex. Michael. Oh, yeah. Asher. Yes.
Master Stewart.
Master. He called me Master Stewart the other day, and Alex goes, "It's not Master, Pastor." It's just like I don't know. It's like It's hilarious. Like, if people do that, I'm not going to crucify them, but it's just like, for me, when I see my pastor or something like that, I address my pastor. And so, you know, now one thing I hate is when my kids call me pastor. The only reason they called me pastor is when I wasn't listening. And they were like seriously, they called me pastor and they told their mom, he'll listen to me if I say pastor. So they said, Dad, 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 dude, man, I was zoned. Like, for me, like, I was zoned out.
Yeah.
And so they said, Pastor Stewart. And I went, what? And Lindsay goes, are you kidding me? Like, you seriously did not hear the kids? I was like, no. And they were like, that's sad. They called you Pastor Stewart and got your attention. I was like, never call me that ever again. Like, and like I know a pastor whose son would come every night, and they would talk to me and they'd say, well, pastor said this, or they'd say, hey, pastor. And I'm like, that's your dad, like, not your pastor. And so I've threatened my wife, like, threatened her big time. She, she has never had a problem with this at all, but like, I cannot stand it when pastors' wives get up there and they say, pastor wants us today to do, and I'm like, like, you call me by my first name. You are my spouse. Like, that is what you call me. And so that there's just a level of respect right there. And some people are old school with it, whatever. And, if you don't call them pastor, they'll chew you out. I'm not going to do that. I don't demand anything, but it's just like, for me, if I saw my pastor out, he would always be pastor to me.
Well,
So
I meant for that to be more of a lighthearted question. I didn't mean to make it awkward for you, but I'm glad you were willing to answer it, though, because
it is what it is. I'm not going to tiptoe around it, I guess. I don't know. Someone asked me what my favorite food is or my biggest offense, I'd probably answer it right now. I'm just kidding. Don't answer that question. Don't answer it.
All right. Well, that being said, that sounds like I said, I'm sorry I put you on the spot there, but I was curious as to what your outlook on that was.
It's okay. I'll pray for you.
Definitely.
Listen, for real. Like, this is what I deal with. It's like, if it's hard because you get sucked into different ways of doing things. Like, when I address Jaron, I want to do the best I can to address him as Pastor Jaron, even when it's just me and him.
Right.
And it's like, well, you're the pastor. Well, so is he. Like, he is the administrative pastor of this whole facility. You're talking about Shantae, Miss Shantae, or Pastor Kaysen. Pastoral roles, when you deal with that, like, there's a lot of people that are really good. This and that is really killing me right now. Like, I'm fixing that slab. There it goes. I think it just slipped my nose. Not really. Like, I want to address that. And so honor is a title thing, but it's also, you shouldn't go into a title demanding that. Like, it needs to be, it needs to be earned. Like, so anyways, I can go into that, but I'm not.
And that's a whole nother aspect of it that I'm glad that you brought it, because, like, for me, I never even think to call Jaron Pastor Jaron, but we were buddies before we came to church.
Absolutely.
So he's always just been Jaron to me.
It's hard.
And then trying to make that flip.
Well, and it's hard not calling you, like, just weird. And it's like one of those idioms, not idioms, like awkward phrases. I'm telling you, I'm fixing to slap myself. This bug is everywhere. If you hear me, like, going crazy, it's because a bug is, like, flying everywhere around me. It's like, got it. I think I did. I'm gonna get it here in a minute. This is gonna be blue. I'm not sure I got it or not. Nope. I don't even know what I'm saying. Nope, it's still flying around me. But, like, it's hard. Like, when you get into an awkward phase, it's funny because, well, I don't know their name. Well, I'm gonna call them dude. I'm gonna call them man, or hey. It's like, you don't even know their name. Yeah. And so it's because we are close in age. I get that. And so for me, I try not to say dude and man to you, or hey buddy. I need to do a better job of saying, hey Patrick, hey Logan, or, sometimes I'll say, I'm not big. I don't know why I do this. I say, hey sis, to a lady, or miss whoever. It's always miss whoever. I try to teach my kids. It's always hey miss, or hey mister.
Yep.
Or, you know, Jackie Hancock's over the boys club. So I tell my boys, call him Mr. Jackie.
Yep.
Don't ever call him Jackie. You do, I'm gonna cut your toe off. And you
Yeah.
go every time you do, and I'm not that bad. Like Mr. Jackie, Miss Dana, Miss Lacey, Pastor Jaron. Like that's what, like even when we're in the car, that's what we talk about is Pastor Kasem, Miss Mallory, you know, Mr. Patrick. You know, back in the old Baptist days, it was a brother. His name, my pastor back in the old days, Broadway Baptist in Maryville, Tennessee, it was Brother Bob.
Yep.
They'd say, Brother Bob. And I'd say, why don't we call him brother? Why don't we call him pastor? And mom's like, well, it's what we do. And so, you know, I get on to my mom and, you know, stepdad all the time. I'm like, stop calling him by his first name. Call him Pastor Blank. Just do it.
Oh,
It kills me.
Yeah.
I get mad at them, not y'all.
Well, and I'll say this, as far as from my point of view on that, as far as the dude and man and all that kind of stuff, you'll never offend me with that, because in my line of work, both where I came from and where I'm at now,
Yeah.
that's like a term of endearment. If you're
Yeah.
saying that, like, especially if we're close enough that I know we're friends,
Yeah.
and you're saying man
Sure.
dude to me, it's almost like a he's comfortable kind
Sure.
of thing.
Sure.
So, like,
I get
at least
that.
for
I'm
me,
100% agree with it. Yeah.
like so I will well, I'm not going to apologize for it. You're still going to be dude and man sometimes.
Thanks, dude, man. Thanks, bruh. Just don't call me bruh.
Bruh.
I need to get Lindsay the shirt that says mom with a red mark. The mom, red mark, mama, red mark, mommy, red mark, bruh. That's what I need to get her.
Yep. Yep.
Because that's what my kids call. Eden said that today driving down the road. She was like, bruh. And I'm like, hey, who are you?
Right. No, our yeah, Paxton's the worst on that one. Connor's kind of getting in there, but Paxton's like everything's bruh.
Well, okay, so you know Paxton, like these things right here, I want to be, they're very informal, very spiritual. And when we have fun, we cut up because that's the way that I want to roll. And like, I want people to be comfortable. So when Paxton came and spent the night with us, I thought he would hang out with Kaysen the whole time.
Yeah.
Him and Preston were like this.
Right.
And I'm going, I went up there and I said, Kaysen had one of his other buddies up there that was in his class. And then Paxton came over. Paxton went up and Preston went up. Paxton and Preston came downstairs. Both got showers. Well, they stayed in Preston's room playing and hanging out and cutting up and laughing. I'm like, son, I went up there and I told Casey, I said, get your rear end down there and get Paxton up here and go play with him. Well, he wants to go down there and play with Preston. I'm like, get down there and invite him down there. Well, he did. And Paxton goes, well, me and Preston are down here. And I'm like, I'm fixing to whip Kaysen. I'm fixing to, like, Paxton's feelings are hurt. And Lindsay goes, Preston and Paxton are closer in age. Like, just let it be. Let it just like organically go. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that him and Preston hit it off, man.
Yeah.
I mean, big time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
They, so I feel like we've got another couple friends who their boys are like the same ages as Kaysen and Preston, and Paxton's the same way. He's right there kind of in between, and he kind of just, whoever needs a friend at that point, that's who he's their friend, you know, that day. Like that's who he's going with.
Yep.
And
oh my God,
I'm very thankful that he's that way, because I was not. So,
yeah,
you know, more power to him.
Oh my gosh. I have so many stories. But anyways, we're good.
All right. Well, so to close, Pastor mentioned it a minute ago, I want to make a big push for this. We have our Kids Fest coming up.
Yes.
Anchored. It's July 21st through 23rd, starting at 6 p.m. Central. And we would love for your kids to come. I mean, we're gonna have fun, and we're gonna get word.
Be a blast. I have so much fun. Miss Shantae's gearing up for a great day. What's the dates? What's the cost? Where at?
July 21st through 23rd, 6 o'clock, ages 3 to 12. I'm assuming we're going to do registration here in the lobby.
Yeah, we're actually doing pre-registration too. So if you want to pre-register, you can pre-register. I don't know if you can do a link or whatever, but it's on our church website.
And it's also on our Facebook page, all over our Facebook page. It's on mine and Logan's Facebook page. It's on Pastor Stewart's. It's on Miss Shantae's. It's everywhere. If you can find any of us on Facebook, it's on there. And if you don't pre-register, that's fine too.
Yep.
We will get you taken care of night of. but we are super, super excited. It's going to be great.
Yep.
We're going to have a lot of worship. We're also going to have a lot of time getting in the Word. There's going to be food, games, fun, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. That last night, so it starts on July the 21st, which is a Monday night.
Yes.
6:00 Central Time, everything Central Time. Then you have Tuesday night, July the 22nd, 6 p.m. Central, and then Wednesday night. And we're doing a family night that night. We're going to have inflatables. We're going to have homemade ice cream. We're going to have an awesome night. So if you've not registered, register. If you want to come, tell him. But this is not just for Fairview people.
No.
This is for anybody that wants to come.
No, and anybody and everybody is invited. And like we said, it's anchored. The theme is going to be boats. Kids love boats. I love boats. You know, it's going to be great.
You get a boat. You get a boat. We all get a boat.
Miss Shantae turns into Oprah.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
True.
All right. And then I guess another plug is Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Sunday school.
Right.
Sunday school. We'd love to see you. We've got classes for pretty much any age you can think of.
Anybody.
And we'd love to have you. Sundays, 10 a.m. is the service. And
tomorrow's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
Yep.
And then as of right now, through the month of July, no Wednesday night services, but kicking back off in August.
Yep.
We'll throw that out there. But in August, 6:30 p.m. on Wednesdays. And again, we've pretty much got a class for everybody. We'd love for you to come and join us. Fairview is a great place to be.
Yep. It's awesome. Awesome place to be. Come join us anytime. Thanks for hooking up with us today.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.